you know, the past, like being knocked out. Well, obviously we're still in the Carabao Cup, but it's more like we're out. I've got to do that.
We live in hope, but reality is dark. It's dark
Yeah,
when that thing's
I've tried to flip my mindset to say, Cecil, if you're going up there, if you win that game, you're in a final. Imagine being there. So I'm trying to just be like a little bit of hope. Unlikely, we saw what Bournemouth did, so you know, a little bit of hope. But then FA Cup we're out. So like the past couple of weeks have been a bit tough. But right now, as an Arsenal fan, I'm just like, I'm trying to hold on to the little bits of it's hopeism, whatever they call it, you know, copinism, whatever it is. And because I know this story, innit? We've been Arsenal fans for many years. I know how this story ends. I've been here, but I can't. I don't do that spin on the story very well. I'm a fan that, you know, likes to have a little bit of hope, likes to have a little bit of belief, hold on to every little bit of it. I mean, that's what makes football so great. So, and if you get that moment, it's great. However, that story where we know the outcome is very prominent in my mind right now.
Let us know what you mean by that, because like for somebody, I know what you mean, but for somebody listening that's never heard your thoughts before, you've said hope and copium, and then you know how this story goes. What are you referring to?
Just like we know, like we end up with nothing at the end of the story. Like we go through all this, we go on to the highs and lows, and by the end of the season, we're left with nothing, and we go again. I mean, Patrice Evra said it. It's like next season FC, and it's a Netflix Arsenal like Netflix, and at first it got me vexed, but then that feels like the same old story at the moment. So that is how the story normally ends, and how it probably is. It's looking like that, but again, I'm trying not to be that fan and trying to hold on to, you know, the hope and belief, because, you know, football is a funny game, and of late I have been very negative. I think if people have watched a lot of the predictions on AFTV, I predicted we've lost in the last, I think,
I think you said we dropped points for Spurs, which I can't criticize you. I don't think anyone. Obviously, the main hope was it's a North London derby. Spurs are rubbish, etc., etc. But based on how we was playing, give or take, you can't confidently with logic say Arsenal's going to do X, Y, Z.
Exactly, that was me. I just, out of the last 3 out of 4 games I predicted we lost. I think a Newcastle game I said we'll lose 2-1. We end up losing 2-0. But I said 1 because I was like, the team are surely going to fight to get a goal back, because when we go back there, at least there's a second.
I was with you with that.
It didn't happen. I was like, raw, that's not okay. Like, at least show us, because now I've got to go up there and it's 2-0. It's a hard deficit to claw back. And then I predicted, like you mentioned there, well, actually in Man United game, I predicted would draw 1-1, which actually was that. And then it would go to extra time. We might claw a goal back, or it'll go to penalties and we win. We lost. But
we saw how that panned out. Yeah.
And right. And a lot of these predictions aren't too far off. And then the other one, the only one I was kind of, it was tough to gauge, was the North London derby, because anything can kind of go to North London derby. I predicted would lose 1-0. Well, I said 1-0 either way. In the end, that was my final prediction, and it ended up being 2-1 to Arsenal. But it was a tight game, 1-goal margin. And then Aston Villa, way off. I said 2-0 would lose. We ended up drawing 2-2, but 2 goals were scored either way. I didn't see us beating Aston Villa, who I think actually a really good side. In the end, it was 2-2, and I was wrong on that one. But going forward, like the game we got coming up tomorrow, I'm quietly confident. I've said 3s or 4-0 to Arsenal. I just feel like, and we don't have to go into that right now, but that is my feeling. That's been my feeling of late. Some would say it hasn't suited me very well, but at the end of the day, that was how I felt, because there's a lack of attack. We have a load of injuries, and listen, that's not an excuse. Loads of clubs have injuries, but it's kind of the sign of the times as well. Arsenal, I haven't seen them get into a rhythm where I can kind of buy into and see, you know, green shoots of success. Especially against the teams we're playing, who I think are actually well-balanced sides. And it's not just Arsenal that are dropping points to clubs throughout the league. Every team is. Like, every team in the Premier League are causing other big teams problems. So I didn't think I was too crazy with a lot of my predictions. But yeah, that is kind of the mood I've been in of late. But hopefully now, I'm expecting Arsenal to make a signing. And then from that, also, I know there's a break between when the FA Cup game, that we're now out of the FA Cup game. Now there's a break in that weekend that we're going away to Dubai and doing some more weather training and trying to get the team.
They need to.
Yeah, they need to do it. And then hopefully from that, I expect a little bit of a run. And if that's the case, or even off the back of this Champions League, hopefully we win that game and we kick on from a run from there. That's what we need. I was hoping the run was going to start from the North London derby, but we drew against Aston Villa, which isn't too bad of a result, but it is when you look at the context of the league that we're trying to compete and go for. And then on top of that, you're 2-0 up. There's not really an excuse to say
it's a dangerous scoreline in football. We know this.
Yeah, that's the old cliche, but I just think, in that game, we felt like it was in complete control. Even when they scored, when they scored,
same case every week.
when they scored and made it 2-1, I was thinking, we ain't dropping points here though. Come on, we've been in complete control, and then it happened, and it's just like that is very disappointing because I don't see how you can do that in the position you're in. But we can get into the nitty gritties of it all. But right now, I'm just cruising right now. I'm not in a super positive. We can go on and win this league still. It's still in the balance. I don't believe it's completely done, but I'm pretty much there. And then I'm not like sack everyone, get my man out. I'm not there either. I'm just, and the people will be like, that's probably me all over, just towing the line in the middle of the ground. But I don't think there's any need for hyperbolic one way, hyperbolic the other way right now. But yeah, there'll be questions of the manager at the right time. I think at the end of the season, I think that's the right time to do it. And then if you go on and win something, then again, we can talk about that then. But right now, we're kind of just in the middle. This is the time of it. It's not crazy positive though. It's not crazy negative from where I sit.
I think you said a lot of things that we're gonna definitely touch on, man. And it's especially, I would say, the Aston Villa game for me kind of sums up where Arsenal are at, because I feel personally, Mikel Arteta, the players, everybody, we talk about fine margins owing into the summer and what we've seen play out, regardless of the injuries and everything. I don't think we've understood and comprehended it. It's not good enough to be the dominant team and have field tilts and XG and etc. You have to kill games before they kill you. And I know I'm exaggerating a bit, but I believe we see this every week with Arsenal. We have a lot of shots, have a lot of domination in games, have great periods, start games well, but ultimately we don't get what we need. We don't get over the line. You have to kill games before they kill you. And obviously the scoreline was different, but that Aston Villa game was somewhat reminiscent to the one last season, where the first half the game should have been put to dead. For me, a team that's chasing, and even if it is a dream season and we're winning Premier Leagues and things of that ilk, we know we need to A, be perfect, and B, Liverpool need to drop points. So when you find yourself, not slaughtering them in the first half, and you have a good 1-0 lead, but they got a bit of hope. 10 minutes or so into the second half, when it becomes 2-0, you need to see that job through. Obviously, once it becomes 2-1, I was looking at the boys like, okay, cool. Everybody sit there and say, you know what? Because you've played football, we've effed up now. This doesn't go left. Now I can blame Partey and blame Arteta for putting the centre mid at right back. I can blame the whole team. But for me, it feels like we give a couple of teams half chances and they take advantage. And I feel our manager and everybody comes out and talks about fine margins and all of these kind of things and a bit of luck. And a lot of it isn't necessarily wrong, but I think is devoid of context. But for me, we need to be on the right side of that. Like at very minimum, we should have conceded a goal or two, or won at least 4 goals to 2. And then we're at where we're at. I want to ask you, obviously you do the AFTV thing. You collaborate with a number of content creators. You speak with a lot of fans on the ground. Yeah. And I know obviously us content creators, social media people, we're in the limelight, in it. Like our opinions are heightened. Like you've got, everybody, some are more positive and negative. But I do feel, and I do say, when you go to games, like obviously I've watched you at the games, for every Mikel Arteta out, get him, there's people like yourself and myself, which there are reasons for Arteta to go. We're not necessarily going to cry. There's reasons to keep him. But then you've also got the cult ones, which I feel you can't personally gas up Arteta and say he's amazing and this, that, and the other. And at the very minimum, hold him to those standards, because a lot of these contexts do have claims, but it feels like he's always devoid of responsibility, man. So my question, I guess, would be like, what's the feeling around Arsenal fans in and around the ground that you kind of speak to?
I think in and around the ground, and just for clarity for everyone as well, a lot of the times the home games I'm actually hosting on a watch long. So a lot of times I travel from the studio down to the ground after, so I get a bit of a different view. I've been to a lot of home games this season, but majority of late I've been doing the stream and hosting. And again, I get a mix of online, the YouTube comments and what's going on Twitter whilst watching a game, and that reaction to then going to the stadium, like you mentioned, speaking to all the fans out inside the ground. And I don't know, there is a lot of I think there's still a lot of backing when it comes to Mikel Arteta. It's from the stadium, from the stadium goers, the match day going fans. I think they are supportive of him. Obviously, there is some fans. I mean, Yardman's a prime example, shall we say? Like he doesn't want Arteta. He doesn't want Arteta in the job anymore. He's done. But again, I think if we go look at AFTV, there was that 1 week, I think, when
it's looking like civil wars, man. I'm seeing lead judges and Turkish big them up.
There isn't in cases, but I think everyone's quite respectful. So even like if we talk about Turkish and that, like he has his opinion,
100%.
and I think you know,
Pick
some
them up.
things he says I disagree with, and I've challenged in house, and then some things I understand. And like I said, I think there was a thing where I don't know what game it was, but the one game we dropped points in, and only Yardman said Arteta out. There's only one, but obviously the internet likes to portray it. The whole of AFTV has said Arteta out. It was just Yardman, and then a lot of the fans again are still staying with Mikel Arteta. They kind of understand what he's done for Arsenal. I know we haven't won anything with major, but they understand the amount he's brought to the club, changed the club, what he's done for it. Maybe might not be able to get it over the line. And that I can kind of understand. And that's when I see where fans can get frustrated and say, listen, we need to get a new manager to get us over the line. He's brought us this far. And I think that's actually there's a fair argument in that. And I always hear out people like that. There's some people that obviously are screaming him out and then saying nonsense, like bringing Jose Mourinho. I mean, Yardman, I love Yardman, but I think that's crazy. I think
you got Yardman
on your point, but also with a bit of sensibility. And you might want Jose Mourinho fans watching now, but I think that would be horrendous for Arsenal Football Club. And then there's like people where I kind of sit at times where I never discredit what Arteta's done for Arsenal. I am fully aware. Listen, for me, I think he's a genius. I actually think he's a very good coach. He will get another big job straight away. And I think he's clever in what he does. He overthinks everything. Fair enough, you may say, but I think he's so, you know, strewn on everything, every detail within football, that I have a lot of respect for that. I've been a player, like people that have so much detail. I think, you know, good coaches, and he actually wants to show like winning. I listened to Abby and some of the Spurs fans recently, and they were saying like the DNA of Tottenham is there's nothing to do with winning. There's no focus on actually getting a trophy within the club. The whole setup within it's from the Enix, the Levies, all the way through to managers. Like there's never been that culture in there. And someone say, you know, also I haven't won in a long time, but like I've seen these are small things like the shadowed out Premier League trophy at the training ground and stuff. And like there's little things, there's like remembrance times along the wall of where they were winning things, being successful, and they bring in legends. There's so much things about geared to winning in Arsenal, and Arteta has kind of pushed for that change. And then on top of that, like just basically, like I said, I don't discredit what he's done.
Keep going, man. This is you're here.
Yeah,
I want to hear all your thoughts.
I can keep going through it. Just
man, keep going. Pause.
Songs, the philosophy, you know, bringing back the style of play and whatnot to the way we are. Like, just everything, the culture, bringing the fans together, the transmitting energy. There's so much things he's brought in and brought to Arsenal Football Club that I love. But this is crazy now, and I always argue with myself on this take. It's like that Havertz signing, and I'm not gonna go. I don't want to be too harsh on Havertz, but I question it from the beginning, and I don't want to be one of those guys that are like, I have to be right. But I never really saw Havertz, one, as a striker, and two, like a top striker.
No, let's be honest. We failed upwards with Kai Havertz. Obviously, Arteta's not an idiot. He knows Kai Havertz can play up front, but the plan was to kind of make him the Xhaka replacement. Yeah. And if things worked, it would have been him and Declan Rice. We're at where we're at now. And I agree with you in the sense of, I'm at the point where obviously I can criticize Kai Havertz, where I think you're a striker or not, you're missing tap-ins or whatever, but you didn't buy yourself. You didn't make yourself a key player. I actually think he's been a bit more consistent than a number of our players, which tells our issues. And no matter how good or bad Kai Havertz is done, could that 65 million have been spent elsewhere and really fixing something like a proven goal scorer? I believe yes. And that's my problems with Arteta in that. I share your thoughts in that. I do think tactically, coaching wise, there's numerous question marks with how we're playing, but I do think you're a genius. I do think you've rebuilt the club. You've done all of that. I do think there's them fans that go, oh, do you only love Arsenal with a trophy? I've been in Arsenal. I'm 29 years of age. The vast majority of my childhood was trophies. Since then, it hasn't been that. So clearly, I love the club. Big up Arteta for all of that, yeah. But it's about getting over the line. The man himself says we need to win trophies. It's not good enough to be second best. Maximize windows, all of these things. Ultimately, there's nothing set in stone. So big you up for the rebuild. Since these last 2 years, 3 years, you haven't got over the line. And that's what we're interested in. That's my fault. And I know some fans, bro, will sit there and say, look where he took us. Look where we was, etc. Big you up. But in the same way, Ramsdale got us to a point. Tierney got us to a point. This one, that one. And Arteta said, you know what? We need to move on and upgrade. Is that the case with Arteta? Because I think there's reasons to keep him. And if he got sacked, I can't cry. I think there's reasons you should be sacked.
Listen, it's annoying because I don't think the board will sack him, but he can't be disappointed.
He's on 15 million a year, bro. He ain't getting sacked.
Exactly. But he can't be disheartened or disappointed if he gets sacked, because like you said, I was at the last game of the season.
It's a massive club.
He said in the ground, he said, like, you shouldn't be happy. Like, this is not, you know, we're Arsenal Football Club. We want success. You shouldn't be happy with finishing second. And, you know, that's what we're looking to achieve. And he talked about trust process, talk about a 5-year plan. This is 5 years. So by the end of this season, if you haven't got silverware, then
this year we've regressed as well. We can't lie,
exactly. But on we definitely have. I'm judging you by your own words and by your own metrics,
exactly,
by your own standards. So
it's not correlating right now.
Exactly. So then I understand the question. That's what I'm saying. But I just think I'll wait till the end of the season. I know fans might be saying just get him out now. But yeah, I mean, for me, I'll wait till the end of the season. Then you can judge on him. What you've said, what your standards are. If you haven't achieved it, then rightly so. I can understand why fans, and I probably might be there on that side as well, saying, well, we might need to look for someone else. I just don't think the board will do it. And talking about the board, I'm sure we can get into it on this video as well. I mean, I see some of the comments. I saw comments saying about like the Kroenke out protest and then photos of him as your Twitter header. Of course.
Yeah. You gotta chat to your chat to your boy, you know. Chat to your boy. Chat to the Kroenkes. Tell them to get the peas out, man.
Man was screaming. I was screaming Kroenke out at the time. The protest was right, and ever since then they got more.
You're not allowed to change your opinion, though.
Yeah, that's apparently not. Apparently people can't change, and you can't. Listen, call me a flip flop, call me whatever. I stand by it. That photo, by the way, is you walk into this yard, my yard, it's there. I'm so proud of that photo. And at the time, things were changing. He was investing more in the club. He was speaking more to the club. Stan is doing Stan things. He doesn't. Listen, when I met him, he doesn't have a clue what's going on. If I'm being real, but Josh,
he put his son to go deal with that and give us the lip service and whatnot, man. We can't lie.
Exactly. But every time I speak to him, even when we saw him, all of us saw him. All the AFTV lot saw him on the tour, and I was literally listening to all his interviews and I actually asked him. I said, how's things, blah, blah, and whatnot. And he just said, look, everything Arteta wants, we back him, we give him what he needs. Arteta, in my opinion, runs the whole ship. Like, I think there is.
Of course he does. That's why I'm onto him more. Because you just became a manager, bro. So if you've played for this club, right? You've been at City where you've seen the fine margins to win a trophy. I know people can laugh at Scotland, big up the Scottish, but you've won a league trophy as a player in Scotland. And I do believe there's internal pressure that you put on yourself, but I don't think the club necessarily wants to win. The minute we got back in the Champions League, we're in issues. I don't think the Kroenkes are them guys that will sack Mikel Arteta after giving him a 15 mil a year deal. That being said, within the next year and a half, we'll be at the halfway stage in his deal. Is that something to consider? Like, you someone like, and I'll even quickly ask you, would you take Carlo Ancelotti just based off the fact that there's rumors that he could be available at the end of the season?
Yeah, that is true. That's true. That is facts. And